Democrats should do? As the constituents, what we should do is we need to start calling and writing our senators and our state representatives about this thing right here, this Epstein thing. We need to write them and call them and make sure that they do everything and don't let up on their ass, because for real, like, they gonna have to do something bigger than just letting his flunkies do investigations. That's like, you talking about Obama being treasonous for investigating Russia. Like, what kind of treason is this gonna be?
That's what I said. Get your 5 calls out and start calling.
Call the Republicans. Call your Republican representatives.
Well, yeah, I think we're focused a little bit too much on MAGA. Our energy should be in energizing the Democrats and like whoever just said call the Republicans, because the Democrats, you would assume that they would be on your side anyway. Like, keep your foot on their necks. So far, I've been seeing they've been able to maintain some little win behind this airplane, because it's still getting some type of ear. But they got to keep that energy up.
I mean, but they're not. I hear your point, LaVon, but the Democrats aren't empowered in any branch of the government. So they can bloviate, they can actually stand up and make speeches. And see, that's my gripe right there. Because Hakeem Jeffries can stand up there, Cory Booker can stand up there for 3 days. The majority of Americans are not even listening to that. They're going to listen to clips. And they're not going to pay any attention to that. But I promise you, if pick any person that's right now in the news that's a star that people pay attention to, if they make a big stink about it, because it's sad to say, I don't like it, but it's a fact of truth. If LeBron comes out and gets on one of these TV shows and talks about how he hates the fact that Trump talked about Obama, and then Hakeem Jeffries stands up there and talks for 18 hours, how many people do you think will listen to Hakeem
I'm about
Jeffries?
I'm about to DM Taylor Swift, because she gonna get it started.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. I know we hate the fact that celebrities have such an influence, but it's a fact.
Yeah.
They get more airtime than Hakeem Jeffries or any of these politicians, because nobody really pays attention.
Yeah, I agree, but I still want them to do their job and do their part.
I agree, Lisa.
I just do.
I have a bit of good news for you, Lisa. It's breaking news.
Ma'am? Yes, go ahead.
I have a bit of good news for you.
Yeah,
I can't stand this puta. Alina Habba, that's one of you remember that's one of Trump's attorneys, personal attorneys, and then he made her.
You mean Mr. Sis? You mean Mr.
You know what?
You've been very bad today, CEO. And then he appointed her interim U.S. attorney for New Jersey, and then she had the audacity to try to arrest Rafa. Well, a federal judge in that jurisdiction declined to extend her extension to be U.S. attorney, so she got fired, in lack of other words. So they gave it to the first assistant. So she's no longer, I don't know if they're going to fight this, but she's no longer their interim, what was she, Attorney General for New Jersey. Well, there you go. Well, there it is.
Good, whip that ass. There's some good stuff coming out of there. Oh, God.
Yep, MAGA Senate, they're in a tizzy. Go cry more. Coat more. She's a dumb lawyer. I'm sorry. I'm all for women and stuff, but this lady's just dumb.
So we come to a consensus then that everybody needs to speak out. I don't know about trying to get rappers and stuff to speak out, because I'm almost convinced that they're working for somebody to try to bring down our community. I don't know. So we can do it. I'm willing to do anything for us to show some type of coalition. I'm ready for anything, y'all. Just tell me what to do and where to go.
They're saying that Hakeem pressured the judges. Well, okay, well, you did something, Hakeem. There you go.
What did he do?
I'm down for it.
What did he do?
This is MAGA. They're saying that Hakeem had a pressure campaign with the federal judges to deny her to be re-upped as their Attorney General.
Okay.
Listen, I don't care how it happened. It happened.
It happens. I agree with you. You're fired.
You have Trump saying, you're fired.
Oh, guys, this is something else. So the news is still hyping it out, and there's this thing here, unless you guys are done talking with it, but I just wanted to try to figure out how are we going to handle this whole thing with MLK? You guys know? Because you know it's going to be some stuff. I don't even know. Just fighting
Sorry,
back.
what'd you say about MLK? Lisa, sorry.
What is the plan for our community to make sure that we continue to secure the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King? Because you and some of us here are hell bent on doing the work of the white supremacists. We hell bent on it. So we have one guy in here who wants to hold 24-hour rooms. I don't know if I really do have a job, and I don't know how that's going to affect anything. But I don't know. I think we should be cognizant of the fact that they're going to try to take this man down. Because what's the point?
Be a watchdog, I guess.
I missed that point. To be a watchdog, like who?
To be a watchdog for the regime change, it feels like that. I may second that motion that we may require multiple 24-hour rooms at this point. For other people's speed, vibrations. But I am proud of us what we build, regardless of the time constraints that we have and have been working around.
Yeah, well, I'm sure that between the two rooms, we'll do our part to make sure that this stuff, everybody has accurate information about what's going on. And water, don't add to no conspiracies that you formulated in your head. Please don't do that. We just want to deal with facts only.
I'm a fact checker. No conspiracies here.
That's not what I heard.
That's a conspiracy, what you're saying right now. That I'm a conspiracy. That's not.
Okay. So, I have one last thing. Is I don't know if Patty's going to open up her room, but I have one last thing to share with you. And then, wait a minute. I had it. Here it is. They are now talking about, well, we just got finished talking about, we're ahead of the news. Can y'all believe that? We're ahead of the mainstream media. Now they're starting to talk about Attorney General Bondi. I don't know what they're going to talk about. I'm just reading the headlines. So let me just go ahead and play this for you guys. So you guys are up to date on everything that's going on. I hope you guys found this room provided some information and some knowledge that you didn't know. He's gone, Spirit is gone, but he gave us the whole history, or much as he could, of Cohen and the connection between, what's Cohen's first name? Roy Cohen and Donald Trump, which is very interesting. Y'all should check that out. Go look at the autobiography. And so you know how Trump really solidified his demonship through Roy Cohen and who he was as a man and as an attorney, and how he lived his life, and how he pretty much formed Donald Trump's, pretty much, because Trump always references this guy who told him to never back down. Remember that? Never back down, never admit to shit. Just keep on telling a lie until it becomes the truth. And Roy's pretty demonic background that he existed in this planet on, how he died penniless, and he left his last soul belonging, physical belonging, of a diamond, I think it was a bracelet, to Donald Trump when he passed. But he was Donald Trump's father's first attorney, and he's a piece of work. So Trump's whole persona was formulated by Roy Cohen, and you guys should go check him out. There's tons of documentaries. I think the one I watched was on HBO. Could be wrong, but you'll find it. So let me listen to this, and then I'll see if Patty's gonna open up politically correct because we switch spots. I'm taking the day. She's taking the night. Because we didn't even go to sleep yet, Levon.
Listen, I woke up and Patty was there. They were talking about restaurants, I think.
Yeah, that was like at 4 o'clock in the morning, though.
Yeah, they were still there. They were still talking there. So.
Yeah, 4 o'clock in the morning. So let me play this. And
then Patty had the nerve to say she was going to go morning. I'm like, God, I wish I could do that.
Yeah, only reason I'm still up is because I never exited out of the comforter. I'm still, otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to do this. This is crazy. All right, so let me play this, and then I'm going to contact Patty in the back and see if she's going to open politically correct and continue this conversation in her space. All right, let me do this. 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a go. 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a go. All right, it's queuing up.
Hi everyone, it's 4 o'clock in the East on a day when Donald Trump has quite literally scraped the very bottom of that dirty barrel in a desperate attempt to change the subject. For our part, we are not going to take the bait because we got as clear a division as any. But Donald Trump has tried and failed to turn the page on the furor from his own supporters over Jeffrey Epstein. That news came in the form of an announcement that the Justice Department was reaching out to jailed Epstein associate and Epstein's former girlfriend, Ghislaine Maxwell. Deputy AG Todd Blanche writing this, quote, at the direction of Attorney General Pam Bondi, I have communicated with counsel for Ms. Maxwell to determine whether she would be willing to speak with prosecutors from the department. I anticipate meeting with Ms. Maxwell in the coming days. Until now, no administration on behalf of the department had inquired about her willingness to meet with the government. That changes now. So, who is Ghislaine Maxwell and how does she feature in the Epstein case? Well, Maxwell is serving a 20-year sentence in federal prison. She was convicted in 2021 on charges of sex trafficking and other counts. Ahead of sentencing, prosecutors said this about her, that she, quote, preyed on vulnerable young girls, manipulated them, and served them up to be sexually abused by Epstein. But if the Trump DOJ now seeking to meet with Maxwell is a case of Trump thinking he's going to throw his very angry base of supporters a bone, the decision to talk to her actually raises more questions than it answers. Did Trump's Justice Department try to close the book on Epstein without talking to his closest confidant and associate? The New York Times reports that in April, quote, Maxwell asked the Supreme Court to hear an appeal of her criminal conviction. In her brief to the court, she argued that a 2007 agreement by federal prosecutors in Florida barred her criminal prosecution. Under the agreement, government lawyers agreed they would not prosecute any co-conspirator, Mr. Epstein. The Justice Department, in a reply brief, urged the justices to reject the appeal. The justices have not announced whether they will hear the case. Politico adds this reporting, quote, it also raises the question of whether Maxwell may try to leverage the meeting for a reduced prison sentence by telling the Justice Department what it wants to hear. The Trump administration's announcement that it is approaching Ghislaine Maxwell comes at a time when the public's fury shows no sign of dying down. Republicans are so eager to avoid the base's wrath that they have decided to cut and run, like, literally. After saying yesterday that the Trump administration has to have space to do whatever it wants to do here, Speaker Mike Johnson today cut the House's work week short, skipping votes and sending lawmakers into a 5-week recess. Break, so you can all avoid having to take a vote, forcing the Trump administration to release all the files in the Epstein case. Epstein's closest associate, Ghislaine Maxwell, now embroiled in Donald Trump's crisis over his handling of the Epstein files, is where we start today. New York Times Justice Department reporter Glenn Bush is here. Also joining us, journalist and podcast host Tara Palmieri is here. Tara has hosted 2 investigative series on the topic called Broken, Jeffrey Epstein, and Power, the Maxwells. And rounding out our panel is our friend, former Democratic Senator, MSNBC political analyst, Claire McCaskill. Glenn Bush, let me ask you to first explain Todd Blanche's post in the Bondi X account early this morning. What was that? What does it mean? And where does it come from?
Really kind of strange. He started off by saying that the memo that they put out, the Justice Department, the memo they put out in early July, saying nothing to see here, the investigation is over. Jeffrey Epstein, in fact, as every other investigation showed, did in fact kill himself. He said that that stands, that's the final word. But Attorney General Bondi, at the instructions of President Trump, has okayed some kind of a conversation with Ms. Maxwell. Why is this confusing? Because is this an investigative effort? Does this have anything to do with bringing charges against unindicted malefactors? In Blanche's statement, he pretty explicitly says that there's really not a law enforcement purpose to this. So this is some sort of a political or public relations enterprise that's geared at, I think, getting information out to the public. It is a very odd, and dare I use this word, unprecedented deployment of the Justice Department to be sort of a public information bureau for Donald Trump's base, as opposed to having a fact-finding or law enforcement characteristic to it. And then on the flip side, all the various intertangled relationships that the Trump Justice Department, including Blanche himself, has with the attorney who's representing Maxwell. It's just an enormously odd and unpredictable situation.
And just to say a little bit more about that, Glenn.
Well, David Marcus, Maxwell's attorney in this matter, who is imminently meeting with the Justice Department, is a friend of Todd Blanche's. They're both criminal defense attorneys. Blanche appeared, I think, on Marcus's podcast in the recent past. And the statement that Marcus posted on his Twitter account confirming that Blanche reached out to them praises Donald Trump for the way that he's pursuing this investigation. This does not seem, at least on its surface, as any sort of an interaction that will produce a result that is contrary to anything that Trump wants or expects. In the wake of this Wall Street Journal report. So it does not seem, it is very much a parallel what happened on Friday, when the Justice Department under Bondi announced a petition to judge to release the trial transcripts from the Maxwell and Epstein grand juries, which are themselves extremely narrow and unlikely to produce any results that would point to Trump, which is, after all, big question we all have right now.
For long years I have done every day, quote Kash Patel, quote, House Republicans, put on your big boy pants and tell us who the pedophiles are. Do we think, Claire McCaskill, that is what Todd Blanche is going to come out of his meeting with Ghislaine Maxwell and tell us?
Let's make sure we understand that Ghislaine Maxwell is a pedophile. Under the law, when you are a co-conspirator, when you act in concert with someone, you are guilty of the same crimes. So she is just as much a pedophile as Jeffrey Epstein is. So, first, the Trump White House thinks it's a good idea to go down and make cozy with a convicted pedophile. I don't see how that helps him politically. The only way it helps him politically is if she can give them someone to distract everyone with. Maybe she can give them someone else who's high profile. And then they can begin talking about that person. Because there was a cast of characters here that were abusing these underage women, that were sexually assaulting underage women that were too young to be able to give their consent for any sexual activity. That's the essence of a pedophile. And so that's what I think is happening, is they're trying to see if she can serve up someone else besides Donald Trump. That's the only thing that makes sense of them doing this. And I just have to say this. I heard Tom Leonard talk about this and previously on our network today. Why isn't anybody talking to the victims? Why isn't anyone talking to the victims? The victims are people who can tell the story of what happened. They can name names. they can in fact bring forth more of the information that the Republican MAGA base is craving for. So it's very weird they're choosing to go talk to a pedophile who's doing 20 years in prison for her crimes instead of talking to the people who were victimized by ostensibly, according to this conspiracy, a cast of powerful people.
Tara, in fairness, the New York Times over the weekend reported on one victim's account and her reporting to the FBI about seeing Donald Trump in Mr. Epstein's office, where Mr. Epstein says, quote, "She's not here for you," end quote. And her...
And that's great.
Yeah, so tell me how you see this move or tell me what you think is going on at a broader level.
I agree with the senator that they should be talking to the victims. The victims also have case files that they filed, their civil suits. A lot of them have their own lists of men that they've been trafficked to, but you live in a culture where you don't believe women, right? So you could easily find out more about John. There are tons of leads. These women are sitting on troves and troves of evidence that they are more willing to give up than Ghislaine Maxwell. In a lot of cases, they signed NDAs with some of these men, but I would think that in a criminal investigation that would be thrown out the door. There is so many directions this case can go in. It's a decision of whether you want to go there. It seems like they want to sweep it under the rug. And also, they can go talk to Ghislaine Maxwell and then say, yeah, her information is incredible. She's a criminal after all, right? Can we really believe her? That's what they can say. Or they can have a private conversation with her and hatch some sort of deal so that she doesn't serve all 20 years in prison. I personally believe that Ghislaine never thought she would serve all 20 years. I don't think Jeffrey Epstein thought he would serve time in 2019 after he only had to spend time in a county jail the first time around. These people believed they were above the law. They acted without impunity. They paraded young girls around and treated them like they dehumanized them. These are not normal people. And so I could see this going so many different ways. I'd like to see the record of the conversation that Todd Blanche has with Ghislaine Maxwell so that we know what kind of conversation they're having. I mean, they could hatch a deal. She could, maybe say the right thing, wink, wink, nod, nod. She gets a pardon at the end of this. Ghislaine Maxwell is holding on to her secrets because that was her power. That is the thing that she's holding on to. Otherwise, she would have done a plea deal.
Let me show you what Donald Trump had to say about her in an interview with Jonathan Swan. Let's watch this. We'll talk about it on the other side.
I don't know. I haven't really been following it too much. I just wish her well, frankly. I've met her numerous times over the years, especially since I lived in Palm Beach, and I guess they lived in Palm Beach. But I wish her well, whatever it is.
As far as Ghislaine Maxwell has been arrested on allegations of child sex trafficking. Why would you wish such a person?
I don't know that, but I do know that
She's been arrested for that.
Friend or boyfriend
Epstein.
was either killed or committed suicide in jail. She's now in jail. Yeah, I wish her well. I wish you well. I wish a lot of people well. Good luck. Let them prove somebody was guilty. I mean, do you know that?
So you're saying you hope she doesn't die in jail? Is that what you mean by wish her well?
Her boyfriend died in jail, and people are still trying to figure out how did that happen. Was it suicide? Was he killed? And I do wish her well. I'm not looking for anything bad for her. I'm not looking bad for anybody. And they took that.
I mean, she's a child. It's
a big deal. But all it is her boyfriend died. He died in jail. Was he killed? Was it suicide? I do. I wish her well.
I mean, what is he's reaping what he sowed, and there he is right there with a straight face going through excruciating pains to not wish that a child sex trafficker goes straight to hell, which is the normal human reaction when asked a question in a sit-down interview about a pedophile. I mean, Glenn Thrush, what do they think they're giving the base in this engagement with someone Trump has already stuck his neck out for?
Well, just looking down to see that Trump had commented on Blanche's outreach, and he said he thought it was appropriate. So, look, from a political perspective, I don't know what they're thinking. I think they're kind of in a bit of a bubble, and I also think, I hate to say this, and we're not in the business obviously getting into political advice, but if you sort of compare the way that the Justice Department and White House have been handling this with the way that Mike Johnson has, Mike Johnson gets slagged off all the time for his lack of political acumen. Getting out of town is not probably the worst idea politically. The question with Trump is, I don't believe that anyone on the left, right, or center is going to be entirely satisfied by any of these interactions, either with the transcripts or with the discussion with Maxwell. In fact, it's keeping the story very much alive. He's trying, we've seen him fire all of his rockets at once. In the past few days, he's gone straight at Obama, which is actually sort of rare. It's a battle typically he doesn't like to want to engage in because Obama is a pretty formidable adversary for him to go toe-to-toe with. One has to wonder, why are they just throwing everything against the wall? That's something Trump has done in the past, and it's sort of worked. But this is an entirely different sort of a crisis, and it seems to me that they've been very slow in terms of adjusting. And I think they're allowing this train to just, to accelerate and accelerate, and I don't have any sense as to what action they could possibly take through their control of the Justice Department and the FBI that is going to decelerate this. Apart from that, from him fulsomely answering questions about his relationship with Epstein and Maxwell.
I think I agree with that. Claire, because they are taking us down this path, let me just re-up some of the reporting at the time and some of the characters we can expect to reemerge as Ghislaine Maxwell re-enters the chat. This is from the Miami Herald, how a future Trump cabinet member gave a serial sex abuser the deal of a lifetime. This is from Julie Brown, who Tara's worked with. Facing a 53-page federal indictment, Jeffrey Epstein could have ended up in federal prison for the rest of his life. But on the morning of the breakfast meeting between then U.S. Attorney Alex Acosta and Epstein lawyer Jay Lefkowitz, a deal was struck. Not only would Epstein serve just 13 months in the county jail, but the deal, called a non-prosecution agreement, essentially shut down an ongoing FBI probe into whether there were more victims and other powerful people who took part in Epstein's sex crimes. That's according to Miami Herald examination of thousands of emails, court documents, and FBI records. The pact required Epstein to plead guilty to 2 prostitution charges in state court. Epstein and 4 of his accomplices named in the agreement received immunity from all federal criminal charges. But even more unusual, the deal included wording that granted immunity to, quote, any potential co-conspirators who were also involved in Epstein's crimes. As part of the arrangement, Acosta agreed, despite a federal law to the contrary, that the deal would be kept from the victims. I'm not a lawyer. I don't ever even try to play one on TV, but there's nothing normal about any of what was reached. How did that come to be? Do we know the answer to that?
I don't think we do know the answer to that. I do believe that there was obviously politics involved, and somebody, this wouldn't happen to somebody who had a public defender. This wouldn't happen to somebody who didn't have powerful connections. They would go to prison for abusing children sexually. And this guy basically scooted, and so did the folks around him. Now, Acosta paid for it. I mean, once this came out, once this great reporting hit the streets, then he had to resign. He was a cabinet appointee under Trump in the first administration. That's how connected he was to Trump. So, listen, all this stuff that Trump's doing, wishing her well, and now saying that he doesn't want the files to come out because he doesn't want people to be wrongfully accused. This guy wrongfully accuses people for a living. I mean, Donald Trump makes it a part of his essence to accuse people of wrongdoing without evidence constantly. All of a sudden, he wants to wish the pedophile well, and he wants to make sure people are protected that might get accused of something when there's not evidence. It is so obvious to me that Elon Musk is probably right. I mean, if you look and pull the thread, I think Donald Trump is scared to death. He is in those files, things that are going to come out in those files, and I think he's doing everything in his power to keep that from happening. And the fact that Mike Johnson is sending the people in Congress home for 5 weeks, we know appropriations bills have been done, and the government is about to shut down, and the government's not funded, and they have all this work to do. The fact he's going, please leave town, tells you all you need to know, because the Republicans want to vote to open these files. And Mike Johnson is doing everything in his power to keep them from being able to vote, to do exactly what the Democrats have moved to do, and that is open the files.
Well, the other problem is this isn't a Washington story. It's not like they're going to go home and get away from the Epstein furor. This is something that has lived and fermented and reproduced and metastasized online and in the manosphere. People are going to go home and they're going to see their constituents, and their constituents are listening to the same thing that they've always listened to, which is people and hosts and influencers who believe that Trump is covering up the Epstein files. Tara, I know you spent time in the substance of this agreement. I want to ask you about that. I have to sneak in a break before we do that. Also ahead for us, as Glenn Rush's reference, we'll get it covered.
Okay, y'all, that's good enough for me. I hope that's good enough for you. They covered just about everything, and they kind of agreed with a lot of what you guys were saying. What CEO was saying, what Levon said, they pretty much agreed with all of that. And that's the update. Anybody want to add or subtract before we? Let me see if Patty's going to open up her room. Any of the mods still on the stage?
Hey, yeah.